Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the EveryMan on the Artist First Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. Find them at artistfirst.com. Please send your questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man. And I'm Michael Lyons.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Margaret.
And tonight my voice is going to be a little thin, I think.
Oh, well, allergies are abounding since we've just stepped into spring.
Yeah, spring has stepped all over me, I think.
It's a lot of people having reactions.
Yeah. Something's
in the air.
Something's in the air. Something is in the air. And it's weird because there's almost nothing, it's a little early yet in the spring. We just started. And there's almost nothing blooming. So I don't know what the heck it is.
It's a lot of dust and a lot of
mold spores,
maybe
or something.
Spores of some kind.
All right. Well, I'm gonna power on through and not talk about how terrible my voice is. But just be warned, if I'm fading off into the distance, it's just my voice fading away. So tonight, we're going to go back. We have not talked in quite some time. We have not had a show, rather, focused on one of our favorite, bestest of buddies, the great Eckhart Tolle. And so we ran into this topic, I guess, 2-3 weeks back. We were having a discussion with some friends of ours, and this came up. And it struck a chord because, well, I'll say it for myself, being an engineer, being a recovering engineer, actually you never recover once you're ruined, you're ruined.
I don't think you recover.
You never recover. I was born an engineer with a pocket protector in my pocket. Part of one of the hazards of the trade is that you train yourself, and you are trained to analyze things. And in the course of doing so, you always look at something, whatever it is, the problem, and you break it up into parts, and you start to think about each individual part and how they go together. And there's a lot of, there's just a lot of internal discussion. And, part of it is, of course, is better that it remains internal, because a lot of it is, sort of an internal debate about what to do and how to do it. And then if you find another engineer, some of it may erupt outward, and you'll have two engineers talking about what to do and how to do it, which is, basically will cause infinite amounts of boredom to everyone else that's in anywhere near earshot, unless it happens to be yet another engineer. But that is an occupational hazard, and it can become a distraction that will follow you into other parts of your life which are not occupations. So you end up being very sort of internally focused and sort of analytical about things. Now, all that said, your take on life, your way of dealing with things, can be clouded by, and this is Eckhart's point, is that this internal voice, which arguably everybody has one type or another, is constantly on. It's constantly talking. Maybe if you're an engineer, it's constantly telling you about what this particular thing is made out of, or how you might fix it, or what your plan for the next week is, or the next month, or the next year. And it takes away from the most important thing, which is the moment of now. And if you're talking to yourself or listening to yourself, which is in some ways the same thing, but a little bit, it is back and forth, right? You're both, and this is the funny part about this whole internal voice thing, which we've talked about many times in the past, is that you're talking to yourself, and sometimes you have multiple personas within your person, all talking to each other. And we said once in a show not too long ago, but a long while ago, who's listening? All these voices are talking. Who's listening? Who's the person in the room who's observing all this and being talked to? well, that's the actual you, perhaps you might say. That's the actual being, the place within which all this blather is occurring, is the actual being, the consciousness. But the voices in your head want to be paid attention to, and they want to talk to each other and argue with each other and distract you from the moment of now and get you in any way if they can focused away from what's actually happening. It's very seductive, and that's part of what was part of this conversation that we had, and then it's now then come into this show. So we have a lovely quote about that. But wouldn't you agree that that's an occupational hazard of engineers and those who love them?
Yeah. It's a part of this society in general for this analysis, especially if the person is involved with anything diagnostic. You're trying to figure out what's going on or what's not happening. In other places, it's maybe more of an emotionally fed analysis through emotion as opposed to thought. And then there's the analysis of whether or not you fit in a certain expected culture. There's a lot of aspects to what the analysis applies to. Your particular focus is always trying to figure out how to build something or how to take something apart or how and why things are not working. And that's all mental analysis. Then there are many people who do the emotional analysis, and they're constantly checking how they feel about something. And it's usually an emotion of some kind. Mm-hmm. And frankly, that's usually the first question that people ask of little ones is, well, do you like it or don't you like it?
Right.
And then both of those aspects, the mental and the emotional, they get fit into this structure of your society or culture, how you're expected to respond to things. And then the analysis goes into, well, am I doing what they're expecting me to do? Will I be accepted in this group if I do it this way? Will I be rejected? Again, and that covers everything, frankly. That's all your emotions and all your mental analyses on whether or not something is working.
Yeah, I think I like all those things. I wrote them down, or I tried to write them down as you were going through, because I think I wasn't analyzing though. I was just writing down because I wanted to make sure we covered some of this, because that groupthink aspect of this sort of internal voice, this addicted to analysis, is: am I doing it right? Will everyone around me think I'm doing it right? Am I going to be accepted? The voice in your head who's telling you that you're doing it wrong, or that you won't be accepted, or that you'd better conform, or somebody's going to notice that you're sticking out, you're standing out, the voices in your head want you to not be a unique, precious individual, somebody with their own thoughts and feelings and their own take on the world. They want you to conform, or the voices want you to conform, so that you do what everybody else does. So this sort of enforcement, either political or groupthink, or following along with the crowd. What will everyone else think of me? And this voice also makes up the stories about what people are thinking about me, and whether they think I'm good, or whether they think I'm bad, or whether they think I'm this or think I'm that, and whether they're going to like me.
Right. That's usually the first concern that people have when they're interacting, because you want to be liked by people.
Right.
You'd like people to have a conversation with you, or, just be together. You don't want people running away screaming.
No. but that voice tells you that they're going to run away screaming unless you do this.
Well, if they find out this about me, they're not going to accept me as a person that they can talk to or be with or have a relationship with or something, And it's very interesting because at that point, you're basing your identity on what the other person thinks of you.
Even better, I think, is you're basing your identity on what you think the other person thinks of you. So it's very indirect.
You're basing whether or not this initial contact, and it's the initial meeting. What is it? You only have 3 seconds to
make the first impression.
Make the first impression, which is always the impactful one. So, in that instant, you're projecting something and hoping that it begins to fit in the acceptable terms of the group.
Well, and I think the voice that is instructing you on how you should appear is this voice, is this thoughts of what people will think about me before they even meet me, before the first interaction at all, is how can I.
But my point is that you're always basing it at that point on what the other person thinks of you instead of what you think of you.
Yeah.
And if you don't like you, then you're going to project that out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like you, so therefore, then people look at you and people pick up on stuff like that immediately. You're uncomfortable with yourself, and if they themselves are not established in understanding that their value is not in another person's purvey, in their terms, frankly, you're giving too much power to that other person.
Right, but I think the analysis portion of it is all the internal voice, all that discussion that you just mentioned about whether or not I'm going to be liked or how I should present myself and whether the other person thinks this of me or what they think of me. All that internal analysis is where you get lost in it.
Well, yes, you do. But what I'm addressing is, why is this analysis rising up?
Right. What's the root cause?
What is the root cause of this analysis, these guidelines being brought forward so that you look at them and figure out whether or not they work for you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually because you are not comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, yes, there could be, certainly that could be part of the root cause, so you're not comfortable within your own skin. But one of the reasons you may not be is because of this constant internal analysis of who you think you are, this sort of egoic reflection of you, and then the identification of that with you.
So you're saying that this process of over analysis is blocking your ability to evaluate this moment of contact as it is.
Exactly so. And then I think early on, you mentioned this in the beginning, and that's why I wanted to come back to it, because early on in childhood, you're inculcated with this analysis. You said it right away. The very first thing is what people ask children. Do you like it or don't you like it? Or why don't you like it? Or you should like it. This giving them the parameters, giving them the you have to like it or don't like it. There's no just being with it, just observing it, just it's there, you're there, and that's all there is to it. No, you have to like it, or you have to dislike it, you have to judge it, and then you have to, we do this as a society. We probe even deeper. Well, why don't you like it? Well, tell me why. Think very deeply. Go into great depths of analysis about why you do or why you don't. Justify yourself. So this initial contact of feeding in the analysis, and maybe the most proper use of analysis is where I was started with. The most proper use is you're trying to solve a problem. Well, then analysis is a good thing. But in most cases, you're not trying to solve a problem. You're trying to do these things: fit in, or conform, or be in some form of the social dynamic, or the power dynamic, or the family dynamic, and you're being told to endlessly spend your time, this internal voice of analyzing why you like it, why you don't like it, why somebody likes me, why somebody doesn't like me. And you just said it, it's paralyzing. And it becomes, and this is why I want to come back to what you've been doing for quite some time now, which is becomes an addiction. It literally feeds some sort of internal dopamine loop.
He doesn't mean that I'm addicted.
No.
Okay.
Did it come out like that?
Yes.
No, Margaret's been working for months now, many months now, with people who are in the throes of or overcoming addictions. And,
oh my!
But this is, I think this is another form of that sort of, and it's so hidden, it's so accepted that this is what you should be doing, and this is how you should be doing it. It's a drug of choice.
This is considered normal in our culture. In
Right.
fact, it is more than encouraged because you're supposed to control the outcome of your life. You should be in control of your life, meaning that every single little thing, as opposed to understanding that you're navigating along a pathway instead of the rigid ladder structure. They're saying, well, in order to get to the top, you got to do this and this and this.
Right. Got to invest in these things and buy these insurances.
And understanding, really, when you look at it, that this is fundamental to who we are, all right? Thinking is a tool. There's nothing wrong with a tool. But if you continually use one tool exclusively to live your life, to look at everything through this one tool, because you feel like, hey, I'm good at this, so this must apply to everything. It's, again, the understanding that the hammer is really good at pounding little nails into wood or whatever you want to put them into. But sometimes you don't need a hammer. Sometimes you need a spoon or tweezers or
nothing. But
it's just, it's, how do I say this? It's allowing yourself to accept the fact that there are many tools in the toolbox. Analysis is a good one, but it doesn't cover many things. And frankly, what I understand is that people are going to take offense to that. Because they are going to look at it and say, well, how else am I going to do this or control this? Or this is, how else do you experience life except if you analyze it?
Right. Well, you're touching upon exactly that. This is the only, largely, this is the tool that people have been given and told that it applies to everything. That this analysis, this is the only method or way to deal with the world, to keep yourself on the straight and narrow, to conform, to be liked, to control, whenever anybody asks you why are you here and what are you doing? You've got to have the full analysis ready to go to explain yourself and to fit that mold of, well, if I can't explain what I'm doing, then I must be some sort of out of control fool, some sort of idiot. And though that's a very powerful internal bias that's been given to people. It's powerful in the sense that it overwhelms them, and they do feel. I think that this is a very good point, and may lead us into our quote. They do feel that this is the only way. This is the only thing that I have. What else? Exactly what you just said. What else do you want me to do? I've got a hammer. And I've got the old saying, and you just said it, is everything looks like a nail, whether it's a big nail or a small nail. I just got to keep analyzing, got to keep thinking over it. The old funny saying is, please stop for a minute, let me overthink this, right? Let me overthink this. Let me get all my internal voices to have this gigantic discussion that nobody else can hear, and then I want to stop the world so I can do, and because I've been told that this is the only way. And it's the right way. Not just the only way, it's the right way.
This is the proper way. We have to do it this way.
Because it's the only way.
And you look at it and you're like, no.
Well, that's the part we should get to, and I think you mentioned this before we started the show, that this is a huge topic, and so we have to kind of limit how deep we can go, because we could probably spend 2 or 3 shows thinking about it. But may I ask you to let's go into to Eckhart Tolle's quote, and I did misspell his name, and we've analyzed that, and I'm going to fix it later. But would you please?
All right. This is all Eckhart Tolle?
This is all Eckhart Tolle, yes.
Okay.
And it's from The Power of Now, as I recall.
All right. Compulsive thinking is actually an addiction. It gives you a false sense of pleasure.
Actually, it goes straight down and straight back up if you want to do it in the right order. So you no longer feel that you have the choice is the next phrase.
All right. Restart.
Sorry. I was
Compulsive thinking is actually an addiction. You no longer feel that you have the choice to stop. It seems stronger than you. It gives you a false sense of pleasure. Pleasure that invariably turns into pain. Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle. And we've been saying exactly this. This compulsive thinking is what you're taught to do. You're literally one thing that people say to children almost immediately in school is why are you doing that? Have you thought it through? Have you considered all the possibilities? And I know we used to get this quite a bit, especially in the schools we went to. You had to think it through. You had to consider all the possibilities, and have a plan. And when you do the plan and you even explain the plan, you get rewarded. It's exactly what Tolle says. It gives you this reward mechanism, which is the dopamine mechanism, which is the basis of every addiction. It gives you this false sense of pleasure that I'm controlling everything. I'm doing good. I'm a good person. I know why I'm here. I know why I'm doing things. You're put right on the horse and told to ride it.
You were in a school that asked you to make a plan and think it through?
All the time. I think both of us were in schools like that, where you had to have a reason for what you were doing. You had to explain yourself. You had to show your methodology.
I guess in high school.
High school, grammar school, even earlier.
No, not grammar school. Not for me. My school was one step away from totalitarianism. You had to do exactly what you were told.
Right. No independent justification.
No one was giving you permission to make a plan at all. So you were expected to fold right into the group and do exactly what you're told.
Well, this idea of conformity and groupthink, I think, is also, then the pleasure is, that you're doing everything right and you're doing it by the book. You're doing it, step by step, if you will. And this becomes, I think, very rapidly becomes an internal process, a self-reinforcing internal process. And you'll find people, in daily life whose almost entire dialogue is with themselves inside their head, and they're making up. They're no longer living in the moment because they're making up the story of what's going on. They're analyzing the heck out of it. They're trying to figure out, where they fit in and what people are thinking about them, and then they're triggering their own emotional responses. I don't like this. Why is this person doing this? They must be out to get me. And the whole thing becomes this sort of compulsive and, frankly, addictive behavior. They're addicted to this. I think the word that we used in the beginning, analysis, is too clinical. It's not just analysis. It's really addicted to this storytelling, to this molding of reality into what I think it should be. It goes from just pure analysis, which maybe you could say, well, okay, you're just trying to solve a problem. No, it becomes I want this to fit into the story. I'm telling myself about how, and of course, and the central character, and everybody is thinking about me and what I would like and what I wouldn't like and what they're out to do to get me. And it makes those emotions rise up. It gives this false dopamine hit of, I'm powerful and I'm great and everyone's thinking about me and I'm handsome and I'm beautiful and I'm controlling what I'm doing and I'm on top and I'm winning. That thing becomes this self-reinforcing loop. And I think, it runs into that second phrase of Tolle's where you no longer feel that you have the choice to stop. What you said before, Margaret, is, well, what do you want me to do? I have to do this. Otherwise, then, I'm completely out of control and, I wouldn't know what to do next.
People don't know what to do next.
Well, I think
their whole analysis, and it's the analysis is their foundation because they feel that it's like a brick that you're using to build your foundation.
Yeah.
So I have to continually use this brick so I can form a solid foundation. And this is the thinking that's there, not realizing that you're so much more than just thought. What you are feeding is not only that mental aspect that wants to not only think but anticipate problems. We call it worrying.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel that, well, then I'm doing my job. I'm fulfilling who I am because I'm thinking about this and I'm worrying about this, and this is the sign of how much I love people.
Right. How much I care.
This shows that without actually doing something physical to show you care. You're just sitting there worrying. And some people feel that this is a valid way of expressing themselves in a relationship. All I can say is more power to you if this is the relationship you want.
I don't think they want it,
but
though.
Yes. This is not the relationship that you're looking for.
Mm.
This is just an echo chamber in your head. You're not even reaching out to see if the other person whom you say you worry about and love very much is responding to you. You're fulfilling that one checkbox saying that I love this person so much that I'm going to worry about them this much because I really love them greatly. So I'm going to worry greatly. It has nothing to do with the actual byplay of you to the person that you say you love. Love is not worry. Love is considering what the other person needs, but it's not what is that called? A compulsive devotion.
An obsession.
Yes, that's the word. It's not an obsession of you sitting there thinking about it repeatedly. That's not a relationship.
I like what you said because people confuse, as you said, worry for love. Worry is an egoic state of constantly, occupying your mind with your thoughts about what may be going on, and it has no actual energetic relationship effect. You're not giving of yourself to the other. You're not receiving anything from them either. You're completely closed off in this sort of worry loop where no actual external reality enters into the worry loop. You're just making up what could happen, anxiety, worry. And none of your actual love, your being state, is given to the other. All they can do is see that you're obsessed with this compulsive sort of self-referential. If this happens, I'll feel so bad, and I never want you to do this. I want you to stay. Don't do it for me. Do it for me. Don't risk this. Don't risk that. It's all about really self-referential. It's all internal dialogue. It has no real feeding for the relationship. All it does is feed the worry loop, feed the addiction loop. It's like the addict taking that drug and that hit over and over again. And love is a being state. I wrote down, when you were saying that, I wrote sympathy versus compassion, because sympathy is all about how I feel about what I think about what you did and how it should be much terrible. It really, really is bad, and I feel really sorry for you. And It's all about me, Whereas compassion can be completely wordless. You look upon the other, and you see yourself. You see your common bond as emanations of source, and you say that is me, that could be me, and I'm just here to witness and to be with that person in compassion and in relationship of what they're going through. The sympathy loop is all about you. The worry loop, all about you. And it's all in your internal voice, and you never, from the outside in, you just look like you're constipated. There's no actual energetic expression that gets outside the worry loop, or it gets outside the sympathy loop. But love is all about that.
Right. The worry loop, as you call it, is me-centered. It's all through the filter of me. This is how I feel about you doing that or not having. This is how I feel about how you're handling that affair. And when you actually are in relationship with another, what would be the word? Your perspective is not from you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about me. It's about the other. How is this person actually feeling? It has nothing to do with how you feel about them doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything about how are they? Where are they? How are you? Actually stopping and taking stock of where this person happens to be in this moment of place and time. It's feeling and thinking as well as their being state in that moment. Are they at peace with something? Are they observing? Are they holding space for someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Are they lost in a problem? And all those things may not contain you. When you understand that what you're actually doing is entering into this other person's space, the term personal space, but you're entering into their personal space and actually seeing it from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Not you standing on the outside and looking at their personal space saying, oh, well, let me just move this over here. It's not about you.
Right.
And that is the main reason where the thinking addiction steps in, because all you're doing is referencing everything from you and no one else. You can always tell when a person is addicted to thinking, because what they are doing when they're speaking is they're using the pronoun I constantly. There's never a referent outside of the I. They can't speak without using I or me.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see. You can always tell when someone is stuck. And many times they feel that, well, let's talk about these other problems. But it goes into from my viewpoint, not from a broader viewpoint. Let's talk about these problems from my viewpoint. This is how I feel about that.
Right.
And it's like, yeah.
Well, and largely, the observation of and all these things you mentioned, worry is a good one, but that largely that whole me focused and the conversation about I and I'm this and I'm that and I don't like this and I don't like that. 90% of it, I'll say, just to grab a number out of the air, is internal. They're having all this conversation within. The worry. I'm worrying about this. I'm worrying about. Don't they understand how much I'm worrying about them? But none of it even comes out. It literally is all this, like an addiction loop. All of the egoic feeding and the egoic pleasure about the worry loop that it's going through or the sympathy loop that it's going through has so little outside expression that when it does come out, it can be jarring, it can be false, it can appear weird.
Oh, it feels weird.
It feels weird, especially, okay, if you're, of course, in unconscious behavior, you can have unconscious groups, and you'll see it when you see a bunch or even one or two people and you're observing their unconscious behavior. So you'll have one person whose unconscious behavior is to constantly come out with these predictions of disaster and how much it's going to, how much you're doing this is going to affect me. I'm going to worry. Don't make me sick. I'm worried. Don't do this for me. Don't. All the concern is supposed to be about you, but it's all about how it affects me.
I believe the phrase is, how could you do this to me?
How could you do this to me? Don't you realize how much I'm going to worry about this?
Mm-hmm.
And on the other unconscious side, you can have the same sort of of reaction that sees this worry as nothing more than a giant way of entrapping people, of constantly putting barriers up in front of them. So you see the two unconscious behaviors, neither one of which the outward expressions are like, one person is operating at frequency 7, and the other one's operating at 1,000. They're missing each other constantly, and they think that this is the relationship. This. Why are you always at me? Why are you always trying to tell me to do things? I don't want to do this. I'm going to do that. You're always trying to push me around. And the other one's, I'm so worried about you. Don't you understand? Everything you do makes me sick. And this. Yeah, neither one of them is having. There's no relationship. There's nothing but internal dialogue, which leaks out once in a while in these odd, strange phrases. Even the fights have no actual connection going on there. They're just sound and fury from one side and screaming and yelling from the other side, fear on one side, anger on the other. All of it driven by this compulsive internal addiction to the analysis, but it's really addiction to the internal voice that's getting all the attention. And it's very interesting because the worrier is feeling like they're doing something. They're getting a perverse sense of, it's perverse, but they're getting this sense of pleasure in, don't they understand how much I care? And the other one is, this idea that I have to get away from this person because, don't they understand how I want to be my own person. I want to do my own things. I want to control my own life. Neither one of them is there's no relationship here. There's just a lot of unconscious behavior and 10 times more unconscious compulsive thinking about it, and thinking engendering feelings, and then feelings turning into actions that are driven by unconscious feelings of anger or fear or whatever. This is what Tolle is talking about here. People feel trapped in these positions, and they don't know how they can even. All they've got is these two hammers, and they're hammering at each other. They're not able to see that the true problem is within.
Well, do they want to?
Well, I think after a while you might get sick of yourself, but yeah.
Well, you have to come to the end of yourself, like in any addiction.
Exactly.
And decide that there's got to be something else besides this.
Isn't that the truth? You've been doing this. Almost every addict has to reach rock bottom.
No, all of them have to. And pretty much when you see it as a physical disease, the addiction being a physical disease, the person has got to be completely sick of it and themselves, that they make the decision. And it's all of them, every part of them looking at it going, enough. I've had it. I've hit rock bottom. And then they're ready to hear something else. Otherwise, no. They believe that this internal conversation or internal détente is what I think of. That they're all negotiating for space in the consciousness. And finally, it's like, no, that's enough of that. We're going to do something. And everyone else is quite sick of themselves. You got to be sick of yourself. You really do.
So you have to become sick of the old phrase of sick and tired of being sick and tired of this constant suffering caused by pick one, the worry caused by the constant worry about everything, making you sick at the end of the day.
And really, when that happens, that's when that fine delineation shows up between the mind and the presence.
Mm-hmm.
Most people think it's the same thing.
Yes.
And that's usually the problem. They believe that the mind or the thinking part is the same thing as presence. And it's not. And that's where you've got to begin. because the presence will turn to that thinking part and say, enough. Enough. You don't have the answer, even though you insist on it. And that it's quite phenomenal when that happens. It's usually something major happens.
Yeah.
And it's so overwhelming that it overwhelms that thinking part where they don't have anything to give, nothing to say. It's silence. And the only thing in that silence is actually your presence, your awareness. I still remember when that happened for me, because my mind was trying to give every kind of reason or possible solution to when Christopher had been diagnosed. And all I heard was silence. It was so far out my ability to do anything about. There was nothing. I got nothing. And that's when presence came in and said, well, stay silent then. We are moving. And in your presence, in your awareness, that's when you can actually see things around you without all the distractions of what your thinking mind thinks it should be. It should be like this. It's like, no. What's actually going on around me? Stay silent over there. Sit down. Stay silent.
So just to distill, because that's exactly right. The situation flattens the internal voice because it has nothing. It literally has nothing. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, when the internal voice is stilled, and you realize that there's still you, that the presence is still there, that the urgency of this moment, the reality of it, the isness of now, requires your full presence, that you don't have time to waste with this internal nonsense, this voice, which has revealed itself to have no actual answers. It's been you could say lying, but it's been literally blathering along, gibbering in this sort of self-confident, I know everything, I've got all the answers, just listen to me, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. And when you finally give it the actual problem, well, here's something that really requires a solution, and it goes, I got nothing. Mm-hmm. And you realize that it's not only is it false, but it's useless, and you cleave it away and you put it in its place, and its place turns out to be just a noise box. Mm-hmm. It becomes, you see it for what it really is, which is that it is just a tool. And not only is it a tool, it's a tool with delusions. It's a deluded tool.
It's a tool with an attitude.
Yes. And when it falls silent and you realize, it's like in The Wizard of Oz when you see behind the curtain, you realize that it's just an old man with a bunch of buttons and smoke and lights. You say, I'm going to ignore you because you're not only you're not real, you're useless.
You know what I always thought was interesting is that thinking part. If it's not getting what it wants, it usually responds with snide remarks.
Yes.
Always snide remarks. And you're like, that doesn't help. what, do you think I care? But isn't that interesting, though? Because that snide remark is supposed to trigger you into assuaging its state.
Right.
You're supposed to stroke the ego to make it feel better.
Right.
And when it begins to see that it doesn't have that power, it starts... It reminds me of a child angry because it can't get what it wants.
Petulant.
Petulance, yes. So every human being does this, as far as I can see. Every human being does this. They don't get what they want. They go into... And honestly, I mean, you have to be brutally honest in this kind of a state. You see it. You see it everywhere. You see it in yourself. You see it in your friends. You see it in your neighbors. You see it in the checkout person at the store. You just see it. People driving on the road, oh lordy.
Well, but truthfully, when you're so in the moment when you break through, if you will, and it's unfortunate because it's usually in a moment of great crisis and suffering,
Right.
and that voice falls silent. You realize that it is just a useless thing. It's not useless in the sense that it can never be used, but it doesn't have all the answers, and it's been lying to you about them. And then you it's like you take off the sunglasses. It's like Plato's cave. You come outside and you see the actual world, and you realize that yes, there's a place for this, but it's been telling you all of your existence that it was everything, and you realize it's not. And it's a scary moment too, because you're like, well, then what is the world? I've been watching and I've been telling myself all about what the world is, and now I understand that this is not the world. That in truth, the silence and the consciousness and the presence is the world, and I have to operate in a completely different place, and that takes time. But you get past that, and then you can't go back. It's through the looking glass and never going back. You then see the other people's egoic delusions that are going on, and you see them in yourself, and you're able to identify them, because they try to come back. Every human being is beset with these egoic delusions, but they have lost the power to completely cloak your consciousness anymore, and you see it in everyone, as you said.
Yeah, I always wonder, okay, we all do this. Every human being I know does this. And what is it? Maybe that's the better way to do it. Because this is not a good part of you that starts getting nasty because you're not getting what you want.
Mm.
I mean, all you have to do is watch a small child, and the minute they don't get what they want, woo!
It can get ugly.
It is ugly, but that's the point. It's like, where did this come from? Because you see a small child too, and you just love these babies. They're so beautiful, but then they turn ugly.
Well,
no, seriously, and you have to realize that that's part of their nature.
Of all of our nature.
I'm talking about observing a truth that each one of us has this, and it doesn't matter if we were little and cute, you still have this. So how do you deal with it? How can you deal with what is part of your nature? You can't allow that part to just run rampant in society. Things go south pretty quick if everybody just went into tantrums constantly.
Well, I mean, you said it to some extent. You have to, when you have woken up to it, when you understand that this is just a piece of you, you see it for what it is. You have that ability to abstract, to step back.
Yes, but you have got to get to that point where there's that stilling of the mind that happens, so that your presence and your spirit aspect can come through. You can't touch your spirit aspect when all the noise of the mind is just going on, or your emotions are going on, or your physical body is sitting there going, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry.
Well, so the addiction has power, but you get to the point where, so you hit rock bottom. You have to. We've agreed that we have to go through this. You get it back out on the other side, and I want to bring something up that occurred to me. I want to bounce this back off you. I know when the addicts see another addict telling a story, they see through it immediately because they've got that brutal, honest clarity, and they say, yeah, this one's going backwards. This one's back to the stories. This one's falling back into the egoic internal addictive state. And they see through it so clearly and so easily because they've seen it in themselves. The honesty, the brutal honesty of this doesn't work. And I know it doesn't work. And I can smell it, see it, taste it, understand it when it's coming up again and trying to present itself from myself or from somebody else. And they know immediately that they're lying, or not lying, but they're deceiving themselves and trying to deceive others.
Right. They're telling themselves a story.
Right.
And that's the interesting thing about the community that the addicts partake in, they participate in. Because that community, especially if the group is mature, will keep you present.
Mm-hmm.
They will call you out on any of the stories that you're telling yourself.
Keep you honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, literally give you a reality check when you're off.
And it is absolutely necessary to recover from an addiction to participate with a community. Because it's so easy to lie to yourself. So easy to lie to yourself. Most of us lie to ourselves all the time.
And I think that's how it gets there. So this, when you're given this in the beginning, and it turns into this addiction, but it's an addiction of the mind, of the thoughts, of themselves talking to themselves, and then something big happens. You hit rock bottom, or you realize that in this moment that this whole charade has been revealed for being what it is. It's the wizard behind the curtain. It doesn't actually have any answers. It's just a blathering thing. And once you've seen it, you have to retain that honesty and then allow consciousness to call you out when you're falling back in. And I think you can't unsee it anymore.
Well, you have to really hit that turning point where you decide no more.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that you'd rather take the pain of honesty over the illusions that are driving you downward into the abyss.
You take the pain of sobriety rather than the illusions of the drug.
It is a clarity that you're looking for. And in clarity, many times, it does bring pain. And you have to be brave enough to say, yeah, that's it.
Yes.
That's the truth. I see it now.
Exactly. This is the isness of now. This is the reality of the moment of the consciousness that is so precious that we can't allow it to be consumed by addiction.
Right. You have to make that decision for yourself. You have to want to live. And you always have that choice moment to moment to live. Let your spirit fill you with life. Because that is what life is, your spirit. And we have reached the end of our hour.
That's a good one. I think we might have to come back to this.
We might. We haven't really touched on a bunch of things, so we'll see. Well, I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for listening.
Okay.